The age of the macho man is over. The world doesn't need more warriors. It needs whole men.
Despite all this manifestation of a macho man, the society is trying to go in a different direction. We are trying to understand each other better, to integrate better with our couples, with our partners.
In this groundbreaking conversation, Carlos Davidovich and host Marc Azoulay dismantle the myths that have trapped generations of men and expose the neuroscience behind true strength, emotional flexibility, and what it means to love without fear.
Fear is the big word here. When I see and I discuss with young people regarding the world, what's going on, blah, 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 they don't see all these positive things because they are full of fear. Fear is about their life, fear is about what is going to happen, the possibility, etc. And they don't realize that they are building their life every day.
This isn't about becoming softer. It's about becoming real.
I think and accepting the differences as a power of us as group. More differences means that we can integrate and collaborate with each other so we can do more and better things. And stop the issue in our society is not based that we have a different brain, because that's not true. It's not about the one brain is better than the other, because it's not true. We need each other. This is about power. Who has the power and who doesn't want to delegate the power?
Have you ever wondered what masculinity even is in the modern era? Are you ready to move beyond the macho bully or the soy boy archetypes? I'm Marc Azoulay, and this is the Men's Therapy Podcast. Together, we'll explore how neuroscience, Jungian psychology, and Buddhist philosophy can transform your life, your marriage, and your business. Are you ready to deep dive into the minds of men? Let's begin. Hello, and welcome back to the Men's Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Marc Azoulay, and I'm here again with Carlos Davidovich. So he was on our show last year in July, and we were talking a lot about classical men's work. You know, you think Robert Bly, you think Douglas Gillette, King Warrior Magician Lover, Iron John, and he was a big part of that movement, both in Spain and Argentina. So I'm excited to have you back on the show to learn a little bit more about what that was like, and also to learn about the work that you do now, where you focus on neuroscience, you focus on plasticity, mirror neurons. You really help people grow and understand their brain. So it's going to be a really exciting episode. Carlos, welcome back to the show.
Thanks a lot, Mark, to inviting me again. I mean, I'm delighted to be here and to be able to go deeper in our previous conversation.
For sure. Yeah, it was a really great conversation, and people loved it. Our listeners were, couldn't wait to have you back on. So let's just start where we left off. We were talking about the role of eldership, the importance of having older men to initiate young men. And we actually were talking a little bit about politics then, and how when we look out and we see older men, we don't have those role models that I think young men really need. So I'm gonna kick it over to you. Like, what is the importance of eldership? Why do men need mentors? Let's start there.
That's a great point, and it's quite. I would say you have different sides to analyze. Uh, what came to my mind when we were talking last time and now again is our generation, or my generation, let's say, it was opening doors of this new masculinity, but not necessarily. It was a general issue. I mean, uh, clearly, I didn't feel myself to belong to the majority of men regarding the way of thinking about masculinity. So for me, it was kind of obvious, and in the circle I was growing up and I was moving professionally, that there was a need, I would say an urgent need to think masculinity in a different way. And we started, I would say, when I say we, I say all over the world, okay? But we were following or trying to be aligned with this kind of understanding how much we need each other regarding us as men, and connecting ourselves with the female part, our own female side, and that is not connected with sexual orientation. That is an independent thing, but it's important to understand and to accept that part of our brain. You said, Mark, yeah, my area of expertise, or let's say of interest, is to talk about the brain. And through my work, my personal work and my studies and learning, I mean, I found out more and more that all of us, we have our male and female side in our brain. Again, and I want to clarify because it's a very delicate issue. In this case, I'm not referring to the sexual orientation in particular. Anyone, independently of sexual orientation, we have this male and female side. And I'm convinced that one of the work that we need to focus on is how to get these two parts in balance. And when we talk about sensitivity, or let's say to be more sensitive regarding the way to interact with the world as a man, that we can define as a female characteristic and is as important as the other one at the same level, something that is sometimes hard to accept in a more general way. One of my, I think that we discussed it last time, and tell me if I don't want to repeat myself, but one of my workshops, I give a lot of workshops and lectures and classes and master classes, is about female brain and male brain. So I don't think that we talked about this last time. I don't remember,
Not
but
not
tell
in
me if
detail.
okay.
Not in
And
detail.
the way I presented when I was living in Canada and in Argentina, here in Spain, I I start talking about female brain, no female and male. So I'm talking about the part of the because what I present at the end is the two sides that all of us we have and that we need to recognize and that we need to accept. Step number one. And and I like to introduce my lecture saying we have the same brain. I mean, male and female. It's the same. It's the same tool. The difference is that we developed, or we were working with this tool in a different way through millions of years. So having the same tool, we didn't use it in the same way. The type of work that we were doing was different, the type of focusing what we were in charge of, etc. But in the end, we cannot deny our two parts, even though that would be an issue if we denied that we have the two sides, male and female. And of course, I end my presentation saying there is a great, I would say, is in a spectrum of how we express our male and female side, all of us. There is a spectrum. There is no pattern, a fixed pattern. And what happened is not about differences or social differences. I like to present it as a power fight. So the issue in our society is not based that we have a different brain, because that's not true. It's not about the one brain is better than the other, because it's not true. We need each other. This is about power. Who has the power and who doesn't want to delegate the power? Makes sense what I'm saying? I don't want to derail in my conversation, but I want to say is, hey, let's change the pattern, or let's change the mindset in the way we understand masculinity and femininity. And let's integrate it in all of us, because that's the way it works better. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. So let me ask you this, like, what would an integrated male look like, right? I mean, we talk a lot on the show of what a modern man is. And what I'm hearing for you, it's a guy that is able to access and utilize his feminine or female brain side as well. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, to accept it, to embrace it, and to openly use it, because it's a basic need.
Yeah. Well, and when you think about feminine side, right? I'm curious your thoughts on that. But my mind goes to, nurturing, compassion, understanding, deep listening, being receptive, being able to surrender. And I think a lot of men struggle with that. I think we struggle with relinquishing control, and we struggle with, being open, and we struggle with feeling even, right? Feeling our emotions. I think a lot of guys are really tightly wound and we're either, we're pretty angry, we're either angry or we're numb. We don't have that much emotional range. So, yeah, I'm curious what you think about that. And also, yeah, how can a guy start to access his female brain? Because I think it is closed off for so many of us.
You're so right, Mark, because there was a lack of training on that. And this is about a social acceptance of this. Uh, Thanks God I was not living the, let's say, culturally. I mean, I didn't receive this mandate of men don't cry. That was not my case. So I was able to openly be able to express my emotions. But I still find so many men that because they were developed themselves in a world or culture where men were not allowed to express emotions, and in the end they were suppressing emotions, and that was very, very uh, negative in the way they were able to develop as a human being. So, and because people that were feeling those emotions, you cannot avoid feeling emotions. I mean, this is a human. And the point is how to express them and to feel the freedom to express them and to not to have the fear of being rejected because of that. Makes sense. So eh, we talked last time, you're right. We talked about politics and this stereotype of macho man and the stereotype of Superman, right? But I'm a I like to define myself as fanatic optimist, and I think that despite all this manifestation of a macho man, and I will not name him, still there is the majority of the society is trying to go in a different direction, and we are trying to understand each other better, to integrate better with our couples, with our partners, and and even though I mean, and this is something, this is a very small parameter, okay, Mark, but paternity leave now is becoming more and more and normal, coming more and more into the mainstream. Yeah, companies already accept that the father can take a leave when the kids are coming to life to this world, right? But those things didn't happen in my time. That didn't exist. So this is a good parameter about this kind of distribution. I will say a more fair distribution of tasks. Of course, that we need to be there when our children are born, because those first moments are very important, and of course we need to support each other. So this is a good parameter of what's going in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think paternity leave is happening. I think divorce law is moving into a more equitable place. I want to kind of bring you back a little bit to this mentorship question. And when I work with a lot of young men, right? They look at the older generation, right? They look at your generation, and they say, I don't want to be like that, right? Or they say, I don't know what these guys can offer me. I think there's a lot of tension between younger generation, specifically millennials and Gen Z and the boomer generation. And I think that's a shame. I think there's a lot to learn from the older generation of men, but I think a lot of men are pushing y'all away. And Robert Bly talks about it in his book Iron John, where young men try to like kill Zeus. He talks about, right? They try to like, kill the dad and take their place. There's this competition that's happening. But yeah, I just want to ask you kind of directly is what are some of the gifts the older generation can give to us when it comes to men's work, or what is some value there in connecting with older men? Because again, I see a lot of my young men like they want nothing to do with it. They don't want a mentor. They don't want connection. They're really alone in a lot of ways because they've shunned this greater community of men out there. Many of them have been hurt by it.
Uh, Step number one, I don't want to generalize. That's why I started my conversation and then I derailed to a different topic. But I mean, my generation, not everyone was the same.
Right. Of course. Of course. Yeah.
And But when I responding to your question, what comes to my mind as a first thought is what we can share with the new generation is about flexibility in our mindset. Because we were born in a completely different world. And now we are living in a world that, first of all, personally, I'm fascinated with this AI and all the story. And that requires a level of flexibility that is not common, is not usual. Today, I'm dealing with young people that they are focusing on the negative things, that they don't see all the positive things that are happening. The last day of 2024, there was an article in the main newspaper here in Spain. There was an article about the 40 good news about the world. And statistically, things that really statistically proven that the world is in the best place ever. And that was my gift to many people. I sent it to I don't know how many people to say, read this. Of course, I'm not denying. I mean that all the war, of course, is there, but also so many amazing things are happening. And to have that kind of thought, you need to accept that change is really what happens and is normal, and that you will not find it so easily. What I'm trying to say is adaptability, flexibility, something that is another workshop I have is about AQ. AQ is adaptability quotient. Adaptability quotient is a trend right now, and people don't know about that. It's not about IQ, it's not about EQ, it's about AQ. And it's a fantastic, I tell you, information about what exactly means to be flexible. And I tell you, personally, I think that flexibility relies more in the female brain than in the male brain in general. It's another parameter that we need to integrate ourselves. Everybody, of course, is a cliche. I mean, that you need to adapt, if not, you die, blah, blah, blah. But the brain has a basic mechanism to avoid and reject changes. One part of the brain. And there is another part of the brain that will embrace those changes and will move forward. Which one is activated or will be active depends on us. So what we can really mentor the new generation is what exactly means to have an open mind and to be flexible and to recognize different parts that still we don't understand how it works, but they are there. Therefore, the baton that we can give to the new generation is, listen, we already were working on this kind of integration of the male and female side, but we were not able to reach the final, let's say, statement because it is not a final place. So please continue with this. And this involves mainly to think differently in a daily basis how you live your life. And the word that comes to my mind is flexibility, is open-minded, is acceptancy. All the concept again about diversity is based mainly about acceptancy and I will say, let me use the word. Now, I don't want to use the word destroying because it's too negative. Debunking maybe stereotypes and tell me my English is good or not, is good enough.
Yep.
Stereotypes, maybe they were right in some moment, but not anymore. So we need to rewrite our story. One of the workshops that I asked the most to deliver is about unconscious cognitive biases. And this is also something that we can help the new generation to be aware of. we were suffering those biases. We were able to understand what they exactly means. And this is something that we can help the new generations to be cautious in one way, to be mindful in another way, and to fully understand how stereotypes can block your development as a human being.
Exactly, yeah, 'cause they're just like mental shortcuts, right? And you miss what is ahead of you, right? And you miss what's actually in front of your face and being open. I wanna ask you about these ideas, right, of flexibility, being adaptable, surrender. Because when I talk to my guys, I think a lot of them, when they start therapy, they're really scared. They look out in the world just like you're saying, right? And they're scared of the wars or they're scared of the economy and they want to like kind of grasp on with as much control as possible. And I don't need to tell you this, but like that's the worst thing to do, right? Because something that is so rigid breaks very easily. You have to be able to bend with it. So I'm curious that the question for you is how do you help, very concretely, how do you help people become more adaptable and flexible? And how do you work with that fear that I know a lot of men feel? I think a lot of men feel like they're out there all alone fighting a battle that nobody cares about. And I think it's really good to hear from you that you're here and you care and that there's, a group of men that are out there that want us to all succeed. Um, so yeah, the question is, yeah, how do you build AQ, for instance? How do you practice flexibility, like you said, on a daily basis? What would that look like if someone wanted to get started right away?
If you're enjoying the podcast so far, please hit the subscribe button and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us to reach more men and inspire them to become the best versions of themselves. Thank you for your support. And now back to the show.
One of the things I do in my coaching practice to work exactly what you're asking is to help people to remember moments in their life that they already were flexible, were adaptable, and they were successful. But they don't remember. They don't register that as a adaptability. They don't register that as a flexibility. Sometimes they talk it as a survival. They talk it about as a negative in a negative way. No, 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 no. You already, if you are here, middle age, let's say, or young, at 30 years old, doesn't matter, it's because you were able to overcome many situations already. If not, you will not be here. So everyone is already practicing something that they are not mindful about. So sometimes the learning is just to be mindful of what you have already done and that you can do it again. Make sense what I'm trying to say? So I don't want to put, because you said something that is the secret of the whole story, how to work with their fears. Because the fear, remember, that will activate the reptilian brain, and the reptilian brain is about survival. It's about, I need to keep myself alive. Therefore, all the stereotypes will be there in action, let's say. And we need to move that mindset from the reptilian brain to the positive emotional brain, and that will use the rational brain in the right way. And that requires, the work needs to be done regarding fear. Fear is the big word here. When I see and I discuss with young people regarding the world, what's going on, blah, 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 and I see that they don't see all these positive things because they are full of fears. Fears about their life, fears about what's going to happen, the possibility, etc. And what they don't realize that they are building their life every day. So be mindful that you are doing this, and then you will decide how to do it in the best way possible. But if you are not mindful of that, you will just part of the flow and not exactly in a positive way.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of guys that are just building fear on top of fear on top of fear. Whether they're engaging in, social media or the news cycle, or they're focusing on all, like you said, all the negative things when they get rejected by women or they don't get the job or whatever, right? But I do think a lot of young men live in a lot of fear,
A lot of fear.
and I guess, yeah, I guess I'm really trying to figure out how to cut through that and reach them and bring them to a more open, receptive place because there's a lot of fear out there, even though, just like you said, I think we're in a much better place than we've ever been.
But I'm sure that you know the book Factfulness of
Yes.
Gosling. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
I use that book a lot, and I share with people because those are concrete facts about how we are in the best time ever of this civilization. Nobody say the perfect world, okay? It's not a perfect world, but this is the best time ever regarding, I mean, everything. Every single negative parameter is better. I mean, poverty and nutrition and education. We are in the best time. And I fight with so many people regarding this because they, for them, sometimes, you know what, Mark? Sometimes, and I'm very open on this. Uh, there is, uh, there is a joy in focusing on the negative side. Of course, it's a negative joy. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like a morbo. I mean, something like if I don't say something that is negative, people can consider I'm not in this world. And this is a completely a wrong assumption. Another thing that we can help young generations is understanding wrong assumptions. Open the mind in the way to accept and to understand what's going on in the world and to give back the power to the young generation that are able to make changes. Can I change the world? I don't know. I mean, I'm not that strong. I'm not that, I'm not so powerful. Can I change something in my environment? The answer is yes, and you as well. So the question is what you do in that case. This conversation reminds me one anecdote of Mother Teresa of Calcutta. She was so famous, blah, 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 very traumatic personality, by the way. I'm very complicated. But in one moment, one reporter from United States, a very famous newspaper, I don't remember, comes to Calcutta to interview her. And he found out that she was in some special asylum or place, I don't know, hospice. And there were only 15 people there, 1-5. And his reaction was to say, "Oh, wow, so you're only helping 15." That was his comment.
Like,
And
do
she
better. Yeah. Do
yeah,
help more people. Yeah.
look, he was frustrated because he thought that she was doing, I don't know, for me, and you only have 15. And her answer was, "Yes, I have 15. Show me your 15."
Yeah. Got him. Yeah. It's a good counter. I like that. I like that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Come on. So everybody wants to change the world, but it's one step at a time. So look around you. What can you do? And again, my generation can help a lot to those people of younger generation that feel trapped, facing so many changes, or feel trapped with the responsibility to do so many things that they don't know how to handle. Again, we go back to fear. And and we can say, hey, this is not something that you will do in one day. So let's plan. Let's let's go step by step, and then you will see what is coming back. So I don't know. Again. I saw so many positive things. People really fighting for their life in a good sense, fighting no in a negative way. That don't tell me you can't. I don't accept that word. Let's be realistic of what you are able to do, but don't tell me you can't if you didn't try or if you didn't try enough.
Yeah. I really like what you're talking about there because it's like, I think the pacing is so critical. When I talk about this idea of masculine love on the show, and I'll just go through it briefly of like, it's this idea of setting the right challenge, which is, I think, what you're talking about, right? Nothing that's too crazy that you're going to burn out, but nothing that's too easy that you're not really going to challenge yourself, and then coaching yourself, or coaching another man along the way. Right. And I think men need to hear that of like, they don't need to change the world. They need to maybe, touch 15 people. Because when I see a lot of young men that are on social media and things like that, when they're looking at these influencers that have, tens of thousands or millions of followers, they compare themselves to those guys, right? And then they just shut down because they're like, I'm never going to be X, Y, and Z, right? I'm never going to have this kind of reach. I'm never going to be this important. And they just shut down. I think there's a lot of guys that are very passive because I think they're overwhelmed. So I really like what you're saying around pacing and kind of right sizing your life. It's humility ultimately, right? It's like being humble and really working where you can.
Absolutely. And stop choosing the wrong role models. So let's define what will be the parameters of the right role models and go for it. And maybe somebody that is around the corner in your house, I mean, of course, come on, let's understand all this trap in a good sense or not about marketing and about promoting certain patterns of personality. But this is not what we are looking for. This is not what will make me feeling. I don't want to use the word happy now. I want to use the word complete or full inside in my life. So those are not the role models I need to look at. Okay, they exist, of course. Yeah, okay, fine. But it's not my fight, So let's choose the right fight.
Yeah. Can you say more? Because I found something there where you talked about having a complete life, right, or a fulfilling life. Because I think this is the tradition that I've been making through my therapy journey is as a young man, I wanted to be happy, right? I wanted to like have as much dopamine. I wanted to have as much pleasure. I wanted to like travel the world and date the exotic women and like have the adventures, but like as I'm older and I'm married and I'm thinking about having a kid, it's like completeness and satisfaction is much more important, right? It's the idea of, having a home cooked meal versus having a bucket full of candy. So you're right. So, like, I'd be curious from your, personal experience and professional experience, like, about that transition, right? Like, moving from pleasure seeking to satisfaction and meaning, because I do think that's an important shift that men need to make.
There is a fantastic comparison. I don't know if I will remember all the steps between pleasure and happiness. They are completely different stories. They are feedback for different hormones. One is dopamine, and the other one is serotonin. And and dopamine is the shoot of feeling good. Wow, this kind of wow. This is dopamine. But then today we know, based on how the brain works, that dopamine never, absolutely never will make you feel okay or fine, that everything is okay. What we found out, or no, science found out today, is dopamine is the feeling of want more, is going for more. So never stops. That's why it's used by marketing, okay? I mean, to sell is the number one. Happiness that is driven by serotonin is exactly the opposite thing. Going back to your question, the step number one is stop expecting unrealistic situations. Like what? Like I will be emotionally stable all day. Forget it. That's not human, Mark. That is not human. The brain cannot be in that place. So if I'm looking for something that's completely unrealistic, I would be frustrated and sad and unhappy all the time. That's not the point. I like to use the metaphor of a bell. The bell going, how you say it in English, or in Spanish? I don't remember now. The pendulum.
Pendulum. Yeah, going back and forth. Yeah.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
That is how our emotions work. It's a pendulum. They go from one extreme to the other. Development, inner development, let me use the word spiritual development, is how good I am in bringing me back to the center when I am in one of the extremes. But it's not to stay in the center, because that is completely unreal. So I will be going through ups and downs, emotionally talking, all day, many times in my life. And the way to feeling in the right place is to accept those differences and to know that when I'm really down, emotionally talking, I know that that will go away for sure. And also, if I'm very, very happy, I will enjoy, but I know that also will go away. So the acceptance of that rhythm of life, that will put me in a completely different place. If I understand the pattern and accept the pattern, then it's okay. Yeah, I will suffer sometime. Yeah, I will have a lot of joy sometimes, but doesn't mean I will be able to be in that place forever. That is not realistic. It's not human. So then the feeling of being complete or full is the understanding of the pattern and learn how to deal with the pattern. So I will be very practical. I learned through life many times, so many times regarding my couple relate, my wife, my couple relate, many times I didn't feel okay. Why to say something that I know will be conflictive? And it's just to express a bad mood. Why? Just don't say it. Why to provoke a negative situation when you know that depends on your mood? It's not a concrete situation from outside. Sounds maybe stupid, but applying that rule, oh my God, I saved so many bad moments in my relationship. So I'm not saying that I don't have the bad mood. I'm saying don't express it. I mean, it's no sense. Don't provoke situation that will be totally negative. Why? Go for a run. I mean, scream outside the house. Do whatever you want, but deal with that yourself. Don't involve others to solve your own issues. Makes sense? Please, I don't know because I feel I'm all over the places.
I'm following you. It makes a ton of sense, right? I mean, it's just like, yeah, I think you're calling men to really master their emotions, right? And like, and mastering doesn't mean control, like you said, doesn't mean like having your pendulum just be in the middle, but master means being able to really take either of the swings and ride it like you're surfing on a surfboard or something, right? And being like, yeah, okay, I'm in a bad mood doesn't mean anything really. It could just be some brain chemistry wigging out, or maybe there's something that happened that I have to process, but I don't have to be mean to somebody. I don't have to pout. I don't have to like start drinking, right? Like I can handle this because I agree. I think a lot of men, they just want to be a robot on some level, right? We want to like just only be one thing, just be that little pendulum versus, yeah, being a human, like you're saying, right? Having the full range of emotion.
I'm also very respectful of if you cannot manage that, look for help. Therapy, medication, I don't care. I mean, rehab, whatever, but look for help. That is healthy. Ask for help. So if you feel that you cannot manage that.
Yeah. I'm curious for you, like, what are you talked about cognitive distortions? I want to bring you back to that a little bit, right? And unconscious bias. And you just named one really during this conversation that men think that, emotions should be very narrow, right? It should just be one thing. You should just be happy all the time. Are there others that come up that we can kind of share with our audience that relate with men, maybe specifically, like other unconscious biases or, assumptions that we need to challenge?
Yeah, that we need to take care of everything. Everything is on our shoulders, for instance. Responsibility 100%. No, be responsible, but with common sense. And again, if you cannot, ask for help. Look for help. So don't drown yourself. I mean, or sink. I mean, the water because you think that you should do it by yourself. Everything. No, it's not true. So what I'm trying to say is, in the same way that we cannot tame emotions, we can just deal with emotions and learn how to deal with emotions. Don't demand that you should know how to solve and take care of everything. Come on, stop.
Stop. I like that. Shut it
Yeah,
down. Shut it
come
down.
on.
Yeah.
I saw many people, I mean, men, let's say that no, this is my responsibility. No, I need to, but you can't. And you see that they cannot do it.
Yeah, we keep coming back to humility. We keep coming like, I keep coming back to this idea of, like, knowing your limits and being able to function within them, and that, you know, kinda conversely makes you stronger. I think a lot of men think that that makes you weaker, right, is knowing your limits, but knowing your limits actually means that you can operate really effectively in your bounds. And yeah, I think what you're saying is absolutely dead on. A lot of the guys that I talk to that when they first start and they're very isolated, they feel like everyone's competing against them, right? That they're fighting the world. They're fighting other men, that nobody is there to help them. And it's like them versus everybody else. And like, one, you can't win that, right? And two, it's not true, right? I mean, there's lots of people out there that want to help you and actually want to connect with you, but it does require that humility piece, right? It does require being able to ask for help.
I coach people at all, I mean, many different levels in organization. But when I coach CEOs, the level of loneliness and this period that they, I mean, the first day in a coaching session, they always is the same narrative. Is finally I can talk with somebody that is not expecting everything from me. I need to solve everything in the organization. Why not I just can show myself, I mean, how much I not suffer, but how much, I mean, because they are in the middle, they are in they are the ham of the sandwich, they are between between the team or the organization and the board. And everybody is expecting that they will solve the world and they will solve everything. And they don't know with whom to talk. I'm saying they don't know, and they don't know how to present themselves in a way to be more reliable and to be more effective in the good sense. And of course, I mean, I don't remember the statistic now. That is why the statistic of CEOs is a short-term job. They cannot last too long because mainly because there's no support, and still society doesn't accept that you will say that you cannot, whatever.
100%. And I think it's such a yeah, it's such a singular job, right? It's like you're the king, right? It's like it's a monarchy, which again is not really how things work. And I work with a handful of CEOs too. And yeah, the loneliness is out of control. I think a lot of them, and I'm curious if you see this, a lot of them like are sensitive in that they want love and they want acceptance and they want validation, right? But they're getting it, they think they can get it at work. I work with a lot of kind of earlier stage startups. Maybe you work with larger companies, but a lot of earlier stage startups is like they want a family, so they make a company, and then they get upset when their people don't love them, right? When their employees don't love them, and it's like, yeah, you're their boss, like you're not their dad. But I do think that there is some kind of like paternal thing that can get activated in leadership that can be both very powerful and also very dangerous. Did you see that in the work that you do? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you wanted to open up, but you were afraid that it wouldn't be taken well? You ask yourself, what's the point? Nothing's going to change anyway. So you do what you always do. You push it down, numb out the pain with a drink, a night out, or pornography. I've been there myself, and I know that men lack the outlets for emotional expression, which is why I founded Men's Therapy Online, a healing hub for men's mental health. If you've been knocked on your ass or just crave meaningful connection, join Men's Therapy Online, a community of men who just get it. We offer individual therapy, men's groups, and powerful retreats all led by licensed therapists. At Men's Therapy Online, we will help you to get back on your feet and take your life to the next level. Start your journey today at menstherapy.online.
Yeah, and you reminds me another thought. I work also with teams, with teams, and normally the CEO and level -1. And what I work and I tell them and we work on is to develop a mature team. So a grown-up team. What is the definition of a grow up team or mature team? Are those teams where anyone can replace anyone in the team? So they can support each other in the way they can help each other and they can replace each other. Make sense? And any moment, if it's needed, I mean, somebody can be the CEO, somebody can be the CFO, they will do it. They will do it. They will ask for help, whatever. The most primitive group or social group in our society is family. because in family, nobody will change the role. So father needs to play father until die, mother, son. I mean, you can have, you are 50 years old and still they call you kid, and they call you baby. I say 50 years old because he's my baby, you know what I mean? So nobody changed the role. So there's no way to help each other. And I'm generalizing now, okay? Some families are able to do that and they can support each other and help each other. But in general, what I'm trying to say is going back to this concept of balance or this concept of feeling complete is also understanding how we need each other. Stop playing a Superman or the lone, warrior or with a white horse and the sword. That was just from the 15th century, whatever, but not now. So try to understand how much we need each other, look for help in a very clever way, because that's the only way to survive. The 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 key word in, I think we talked about last time, in all the work of Charles Darwin in the book, the word that is used the most is collaboration, not competition. And collaboration still is the key word. And in masculinity, something that we need to learn, that collaboration is key in our process of inner development.
Yeah. It's the only way to do great things, right? Is in teams. You can't lift heavy things alone. I want to ask you, because I agree with you. I think, male brain and female brain are different, equal, right? But different. And I think masculine and feminine energies are different, but equal. So I want to ask you a question, right? Like, what can men or masculine energy or male brain, or whatever you want to call it, learn from the feminine? And what can the feminine learn from the masculine? Because I think we need each other, right? We need both sides. And we need to not be fighting each other, but we need to be collaborating to create this, greater soul, right? This like unified soul. So I'm curious, yeah, what can both sides learn from each other and what do they bring to the table?
Gosh, that can take many hours, I tell you.
Right. That
But
could be your whole workshop.
yeah,
Well,
I don't know the answer. But first of all, again, is stop projecting that others needs to be like you.
that's a big one. Yeah.
It's a huge one. If I don't accept that my wife behaves differently, perceives differently,
Mhm.
then I cannot even start talking. I cannot
Mhm.
even start communicating. I always tell you something, the half joke. Okay? It's a very typical sentence from a woman to say, you should know. No, I mean, about something is going wrong, and they are not feeling okay. And when you say what's going on, tell me, they say you should know. And we get so nervous about it and so mad about it. But do
Yeah.
you know why they do that?
Why?
Because females are much, much, much better than men to read the
Mhm.
facial expression, and they think that we have the same power, and we don't. So we don't get it.
Yeah. I know. I have this fight with my wife all the time. I get it. Yeah. We
and
don't
and
see it.
and,
We don't see
and,
it.
we,
Yeah.
and women say, hey, you didn't see that, or you didn't see that things. No, we don't see in the same way.
Mhm.
I will tell you another example. If it's a lot, we can talk a lot about this, but it is an example I use a lot. Our eyes are developed differently. And I will
Really?
explain. Yeah. I
Yeah.
tell you
Talk
what.
about that. Yeah.
Historically, I will give you a very simple example.
Mhm.
When we were in the cave time, I hope you still remember, men were in charge of what?
Hunting, killing,
Absolutely,
protecting,
absolutely.
right?
Hunting, mainly hunting.
Yeah.
And women were in charge of,
Gathering.
yeah, but
Yeah.
if when I asked this
And
question in my
childcare.
workshop and I said women were in charge of, the answer of women is everything else. And
Everything
it's
else. Men kill shit, women do everything else. Fair enough.
exactly.
Yeah.
Then we developed a different way of seeing. Hunting requires to analyze signs in the field, and then to focus, to aim, and okay, not shoot because there was nothing to shoot, but for hunting you need to focus. Women, they were developing a different way of seeing. They need to be in the cave and seeing at the same time kids are okay, the food is okay, and there's no enemy coming to the cave. You know what I mean? So they developed a more wide way of seeing. Even though in the eyes we have two type of cells in the retina. One is to focus and the other one is to see the peripheral. The female eyes, they have more cells in the periphery than in the center, and males is completely the opposite. To give you an example, this is a typical joke that when we men, we open the refrigerator and looking for the yogurt, we don't find it because it's too many things all together. So we cannot, and then the women come and say, it's here. You don't see it? Or when I go to a restaurant with my wife, we just cross the threshold, just the door, and my wife can tell me right away if the tables in the extremes are free, are available or not, and I cannot see them until I turn my head because I'm just seeing the front of my eyes. I can see what is there, know what is there. So this is a different capacity, and we need to recognize and to know that we have different capacities. Therefore, we can complement each other fantastically well.
I think it's a beautiful example, right? It's like literally seeing two different parts of the world. And that is so true. And I see the opposite, right? When I can get frustrated with my wife on like home improvement or fixing things, where I'm like, I don't know, I'm like, just look at it and you can see what the problem is, right? You can study it and see what the issue is. Whereas, yeah, they're taking, like you said, that more panoramic awareness, and she's noticing things that I'm not even aware of, you know?
Absolutely. So let's start recognizing and accepting the differences as a power of us as group. More differences means that we can integrate and collaborate with each other so we can do more and better things. And stop expecting that everybody will be like you because this is very limited way of thinking.
Very much so. Yeah, and I think it dovetails really nicely back into the cognitive distortions, right? Or the biases and assumptions. Is like, I think, yeah, until people get talking to each other, whether that be in a relationship or in group or online or whatever it is, you do think everyone's like you because you only have one frame of reference. But it's like, yeah, other people have different strains. Other people see the world differently. Other people have different life experience, different cultural backgrounds. And it's really, really important to, yeah, build a stronger whole with all those diverse pieces that you're talking about.
I will share with you something that when I found out, I thought it was really dramatic. I'm coming from medicine. I'm an MD, as you know. And maybe you heard about this. Until the 70, that's just yesterday, most of the medication from the pharmaceutical business the trials were only involving men, never women. And the effects is completely different. You heard about it. But
Yeah,
this is terrible.
it's crazy.
It's
It's crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, it's
It's
crazy.
crazy. Only now they are testing men and women and understand that the body reacts differently. Side effects and so on and so forth. And an effect and therapeutical effect. Again, this is a narrow mind, let's say, or short seeing regarding projecting that everybody is like me. No, we are different, and this is a gift. The differences, it's about gift that we can really, really help and support each other in things that I cannot be good on everything. I cannot be good in many things. But what I mean is I need you. And in the case of male and female, we need each other even more. to complete to see the whole picture.
Right. And I think like, to go back to Iron Time, all that mythology, right? Like so much of the mythological story is about that. I think people, interpret it, take it literally, but I think it really is just like men and women need each other. Masculine and feminine energies need to be balanced. Like there's a lot out there and it takes both to make a stronger whole and a stronger family and a stronger internal person. Like, that's just something that has been echoed throughout time forever, is like the unification of these 2 things, these 2 parts of your brain, right? These 2 hemispheres maybe, right? Like, that is what creates, like, the Ubermensch, right, or the evolved human or the modern person, is to not have those barriers and not have that, like you said, that power struggle and that competition. Well, so as we're wrapping up, moving towards the end here, what is something, maybe, a technique from your workshop or something from your coaching practice that our listeners could do right away? Whether that be an activity or, a prompt to think about, but something if they're feeling really motivated and they want to jump right in to some of these topics that we've talked about, like where should they start?
I give this as a task homework to some of my coaches, but start looking others. Now we are talking about gender, right? Male and female, and identify the differences. So look for the differences proactively. What this person has or can do, I cannot. What this person can see, what I don't see. So try to identify, try to understand our own limitations, and mainly identify on others what they can do, they cannot. Because then that will make my brain to open in a completely different way. And that will also help to be more humble, definitely, but mainly to understand what exactly diversity is about. Diversity is about to complement each other, not to separate from each other. So in a practical way, play the game of try to look on others what they have that you don't, regarding characteristics, and not to show that you're not good. I'm saying, don't get me wrong, is to show that how you can get even benefits of that in a good sense. I mean, helping each other. This is a quite practical thing when we start proactively try to identify and to see those differences and how much they can be useful to the whole system. I don't know if this is concrete enough to based on your question, but start looking outside differently, or start seeing differently.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, right? Like, I think it helps to practice empathy, and I think it helps to create opportunities of, "Hey, what can I learn from this person?" You know? Like what superpower do they have that can, help me or inspire me or they can maybe even teach me, right? Like what is out there? And it's yeah, that's like I said, it's not comparative. It's not like, oh, I don't have this, I must suck. It's like, no, there's another asset, it's another helping hand, another piece of the puzzle that can create a better whole. So I think that's a great activity. You can write it down, I can put it in a journal,
Yeah, I really to write
make
it
a
down.
note,
I ask them to write it
whatever
down and
it
to
is.
bring it to the next session. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and just find a way that they can, find the value in other people. I think that's really critical. Well, Carlos, I've loved having you on the show. I think this was a phenomenal episode. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you, learn about your work, about your TED Talks? What's the hub?
My website, I mean, is www.carlosdavidovich.com. And in LinkedIn is easier. I mean, you put Carlos Davidovich, you'll find myself. I mean, and neuromanagement, everything connected with the brain. That's a better way to find me. And I think that's enough.
Yeah, we'll have all of that stuff in the show notes. We'll also have a link to some of the books and resources that we talked about. Again, thank you so much for being on the show. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, do all the social stuff, like, share, subscribe, comment, send to somebody, send to a couple that needs some help, needs help appreciating each other, send somebody who is looking for a mentor. And I think hearing someone of an older generation being open and honest and vulnerable is so needed these days to break down some of those stereotypes that we have been talking about on the show. So yeah, send all that stuff up. All of our stuff is at menstherapy.online. You can find more episodes of the show, as well as stuff about my company and my therapy outfit and the retreats and groups and all the stuff that we do. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on another episode of the Men's Therapy Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review. Don't forget to visit menstherapy.online to learn more about the work that we are doing to support and inspire men. Until next time, keep moving forward.